This is the AMDM, your quick morning podcast full of Memphis news, and I'm Natalie Van Gundy. Today is Tuesday, August 11th. The Memphis Tigers basketball team will face up to 7 Power Conference teams this season. The non-conference schedule dropped Monday, and it includes games against Vanderbilt and Baylor. The Tigers will also play 2 games at the Battle for Atlantis over Thanksgiving weekend in the Bahamas. Millington police officer Brian Childress was fired by the city Friday after he was indicted on 2 felony counts by a grand jury. Childress was indicted by a grand jury on charges of theft between $2,500 and $10,000, as well as official misconduct. He was released Thursday on a $65,000 bond. According to a report from the state controller, Childress filed for nearly $3,000 in unearned wages and benefits by claiming to work for the police department while also working private security jobs. The investigation began when a Millington city official reported questionable practices involving Childress and his work time. Childress was suspended with pay December 1st through April 1st. From that point, he was suspended without pay until his dismissal Friday. And now it's time for a look at one of the week's biggest stories with Mary Casciola. But stay with us after that for more of the day's news.
In January 2024, the Exxon hop-in at the corner of Poplar Avenue and Highland Street caught fire. The location had been home to a filling station since the 1930s, and in 2024, people expected, even after the fire, that the gas station would be rebuilt. But here we are, 2.5 years later, and nothing has happened at the site. Today, we're joined by reporter Andy Ashby to talk about what is going on. Andy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I think a lot of people have questions about this particular gas station. It's in a pretty prominent location. The fire was very prominent. It happened like during a snowstorm, I think. There was like ice on the ground, like whatever. This
very dramatic.
Yeah, dramatic. But so you started looking into this because of like a next door comment, is that right?
Kind of, sort of. I've actually been hearing about this since I started with the Daily Memphian.
That's all we can talk about.
Yeah, I mean, like since February. It's kind of funny to me. I think I've written about massive warehouses, office buildings, shopping center deals, but I think I've gotten more questions about this 1-acre gas station than about anything else. But yeah, I mean, I've even had like several of my sources, ask about like, hey, do you think I could buy that? Like, who would I call?
It's just sitting there.
It's just exactly.
It's a prime opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, and I was just kind of like watching TV with my wife, and she was, scrolling, and she saw the next thing, and she brought it up, and I'm like, I probably should just write about this.
Yes. Okay, so I mean, so it's been a filling station. I love that terminology since the 30s. So it does seem to be, it would make sense that gas station burned down. It would be replaced by a new gas station. But apparently it is more complicated than that.
Yes, it is. It's not as simple as, tear it down and rebuild it. I kind of wish that the property owner and the planning department would have given me a little more insight.
Right, because they didn't really talk to you very much.
No.
Or at all.
Exactly. It wasn't for lack of trying. I've tried emails, phone calls, all that. But, it is more complicated. And I guess my impression is that, kind of both sides have led a little bit to the delay here. I mean, the planning department, code enforcement, all that, they're just following procedure, but one of these first major delays was triggered, by a planning overlay in the Unified Development Code, which put restrictions on rebuilding it as a gas station. That to me seemed like the most obvious thing. I think the owner, which is a company called Majors Management, has made their own missteps, which could have led to delays as well, but they wouldn't go on the record, and I really couldn't confirm those.
Sure.
I just think really people are interested in this corner. They drive by regularly. It's like 22,000 cars a day go by this property. And so I just kind of laid out the public information and let everyone just decide for themselves what they thought was kind of causing the delay.
All right, so let's go through the timeline starting at about June 2024.
Okay, so the Shelby County Land Use Control Board recommended approval of a special use permit with conditions which included stuff like adding a buffer for pedestrians and bus riders during their June 13th meeting that year. And that was approved by the Memphis City Council in August. So kind of this meant like after 6 months, it was determined the site could be used as a gas station, even though a gas station had been on the site since 1939, essentially 87 years. So when the Exxon and Hoppin were built, it was legal for a gas station, but then the overlay of the EBC kind of outlawed them for the site, thus the special use permit. So that kind of added about a half a year to the development just to get to zero.
Okay. And I guess, maybe we need to talk about this. Maybe we'll talk about this. But the city council does not seem to love gas stations.
Don't appear to be fans.
It's an issue. They don't like new ones. I think there's been moratoriums on gas stations. There's been some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't really appear to like new gas stations. They think we kind of have enough is the impression.
Right. So it's like, if we can get rid of a gas station, even at Poplar and Highland.
I don't think they were targeting this one per se. I think it was just like a victim of circumstances.
Yes.
Like they didn't expect a fire at the Poplar and Highland.
Sure.
So
no one did.
Act of God and all that. An act of God superseding the city council. When we look at it.
No comment.
Sorry. But yeah, so that's definitely, that they've kind of put up some certain. They add things to it. They do different.
Sure. It's not this particular one. I'm sorry if I made it seem that way, but yeah.
No, I mean, one thing, it's already kind of hard to do business, I guess is how some people would argue it. But when they approved it, the city council in August, they also added some requirements, such as solar panel, increasing the number of electronic vehicle charging stations from 2 to 3. I've heard from people that Dr. Warren, the city council, he adds electric charging stations to projects regularly. I've heard some mixed opinions about that.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, some people think that we don't have enough EV charging stations. Others think it just adds complications to redevelopment.
Right.
People are there to get gas.
Right.
So it kind of depends on what side of the fence you're on, actually.
Okay.
So after all that, MAPCO, which is what it's going to be switching to, filed a $2.2 million construction permit last year.
Okay.
And then that was approved December 10th, which is almost half a year just to approve the construction permit. I believe that might have been because Major's management might have misplayed a couple of things.
Okay.
Anyway, there's still been some further delays, and that permit is extended from this last year to September 11th, so in the next month, basically.
Okay.
And then also, crews have had some hiccups. There was a demolition. They started to clear the concrete slab in May before filing a demolition permit, which is actually a similar thing happened at the In-N-Out over here in East Memphis. They started doing demo work, and then they did a stop order because they didn't get a demolition permit.
Right. So you can have a construction permit, but you also need a demolition permit separate.
Yeah.
Okay. Just saying.
Yeah, you gotta,
if you're demolishing something,
yes,
you have to get a permit to do so.
Yeah, and they still have some demo work to do. I mean, there are those two big signs out there that don't look great, to be honest with you. I mean, they're just like, and they still have to be taken down and replaced with a 10-foot monument sign, kind of per their, the requirements that they added to this project.
Okay.
And then also the last thing I saw was, plumbing permit was filed in June 10th, but work hasn't started there yet. And there's actually some people who said that they might have some issues with MLGW hookups, and that's apparently a fairly complicated process. So.
Okay, so what is happening now?
Well, they need to start building the convenience store by September 11th or file another extension. This is kind of an interesting thing, I thought. The pumps in the canopy were completely untouched by the fire.
Really?
Yeah.
Even the pumps?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at them, they look great.
Yeah.
They look fine. Like you could just plug in and start filling up your car. But again, they have to be, so really it's just the convenience store. The hop-in part of this equation. And again, we're kind of getting close to 3 years here to rebuild just the convenience store, right? Like
Yeah.
not the pumps, which could be hard
Right,
and problematic, but just the convenience store. So something like that, people tell me takes about 6 months.
Right.
If you were just to do a retail center about, a little over 2,000 square feet or whatever. So we just need to see if there's any further delays before the construction, which again, hopefully could take 6 months or so.
That is super interesting. I guess I just sort of thought that the pumps were involved in some way because fire, they
Yeah.
would have been filled with gasoline. Like I just would have assumed they would have been touched in some way. So
Yeah.
this is really an interesting case study here.
Well, like at the In and Out, I think they're tore down like a canopy
Sure.
over there. But the canopy, if you drive by the site right now, the canopy's fine, the gas is fine. It's a relatively clean site. It's just they need to rebuild the convenience store and hook up the stuff. I'm hoping that the gas is out. I imagine the gas is out.
Who can say?
Yes.
Hard to know from this standpoint.
Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting how complicated it can be.
Yeah.
I guess that's just regulations for you.
The government being maybe not super friendly towards gas station, rightly or wrongly, is that. And then it also kind of adds a complication for other gas stations. That's something I was talking to a real estate professional about, you have an old gas station and it's starting to look bad and you say, hey, listen, I'll scrape
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I'll build an awesome new one and I'll
Right.
make more money.
Sure.
But they're not doing it because they're afraid they might not be able to rebuild. So you kind of left with falling apart gas stations. It's kind of
Which is the problem to begin with, because I assume you have these gas stations that don't look very good, and then it's like, well, we don't want more of that. That causes blight in our neighborhoods. Let's just say pause on gas stations. It just feels like a vicious cycle in some ways.
Well, the way I explained it, my son and I were talking about this, and like the Chick-fil-A on Union, they shut down for months,
Right.
and reconfigured, did massive heavy work, but they had no fear of being able to reopen.
Right.
But a gas station, you want to put in the latest and greatest technology to maximize your profit. You're just not going to do it. You're just going to kind of keep dealing.
All right, Andy, thanks for being here.
3 years after former FedEx manager Erica Sutton began her company, Boss Lady Pickles, her product is now sold at Cordelia's Market through Shelf Ready, an initiative from the Greater Memphis Chamber's Small Business Council. Sophia Surratt says 10 small businesses applied for the new program, which aims to help get local products into local stores. But only 2, Boss Lady Pickles and Naked Scents Candles, were chosen.
Boss Lady Pickles retail at $9 a jar and have a 1-year shelf life. Though the brand includes about a dozen varieties, not all the flavors are stocked at Cordelia's. Sutton said the Shelf Ready program has exposed her to a new market, as she mainly sells in Millington, and allows her to promote herself to other stores. The next vendor pitch opportunity event will be held next spring, and vendors can apply through the Greater Memphis Chamber's website. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Sophia Surratt.
The former developer of the Cascades, a highly anticipated mixed-use project in Olive Branch, owes millions in unpaid loans. Aaron Fleming says First Community Bank sued Marion Threet on May 11th, claiming he owes more than $11 million.
The project, announced in September 2021, was expected to include a mix of retail, office, and residential space, as well as a supermarket and a senior living facility. But little progress has been made, and the most recent updates are associated with this newest lawsuit filed against the project's former developer. Several other companies and banks are also suing Threet, according to court records. As for the project, the property still sits vacant 5 years after breaking ground. But Olive Branch Mayor Ken Adams announced in a Facebook post in February that a new developer had acquired the land and would continue the project, renamed Dove's Landing. For the Daily Memphian, I'm Aaron Fleming.
That's the AMDM for this Tuesday, August 11th. I'm Natalie Van Gundy. Find links to all of the stories mentioned in this episode in the podcast description. Listen and subscribe to this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts or on the Daily Memphian's website. You can also hear us on WYXR 91.7, where our local news stories air every weekday throughout the day. And don't forget to subscribe to our other weekly podcasts hosted by your favorite reporters, including Sound Bites, the Daily Memphian's Food and Dining podcast with Holly Whitfield, The Sidebar, the Daily Memphian's Arts and Culture podcast with Eric Barnes, Barnes, and the Daily Memphian Grizzlies podcast with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington. You can also sign up for our breaking news alerts and our mini weekly newsletters we offer by visiting dailymemphian.com/email. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to start your day here again tomorrow.